speaker, I would like to call Rick Echevarria, which is VP Software and Service Group at Intel. He is a General Manager, Platform Security Division. Rick Echevarria is the Software Vice President for Platform Group and a General Manager of the Security Division at Intel Corporation. He is leading the Intel efforts to transform security across computing landscape. He is bringing market value and new innovation in the area of cybersecurity. He is responsible for all platform features on the activity related to AI, blockchain, and also innovation like technologies of software guard extension. So welcome, Rick Echevarria from Intel.
Hope some of you attended the automotive security session. You're going to get a double treat from me today. Very impressed. This event, I guess, originally we thought it was going to be just a couple hundred people, right? So what I'm going to spend some time here is talking about blockchain and Intel's contribution to this space and some of the collaboration work that we have started here in what I often call one of the epicenters of cybersecurity innovation in Israel. And you're going to see that this is a space where we're bringing technology, where we're bringing partnerships, and some of you in particular, already jumping on this to make a difference and make some impact to businesses worldwide. So let me just get started here, if I can figure out how this is going to work, and talk a little bit about blockchain momentum. That's okay, I know how to operate a PC. So as many of you know, blockchain started and has been most applied and most heard of in the financial services sector, and still that's the place where you're going to see and hear about most of our examples. But what we also get excited about the general applicability of this concept of the trust protocol across other industry. And I wanted to share a few examples of other areas that we've seen. One of the areas that's most interesting for us is in the content space, particularly the Open Music Initiative. And this is of interest because for those of you, I don't know if anybody's here in the music industry or is an artist, but you realize that you're creating a lot of great content, and usually the artist gets to get the least amount of return for their creativity. So what we're doing with the Open Music Initiative and what we see in the industry is really empowering the artists to get a better return for their artistic achievement. The Toyota Research Institute, and there's been other initiatives in the automotive space where they're looking at blockchain as a way to potentially impact opportunities around the sharing of data, new models for ride sharing, and in the user-based insurance, where people are talking about dynamic insurance claims based on the way you behave, the way you drive, and being able to adjust your claims. So if you're a good driver, it's good for you. If you're a bad driver, bad news. But you have a way to dynamically manage that marketplace. The Australia Post is engaged in a supply chain initiative, and this one is also very interested because we're talking about cross-boundary commerce, and they're partnering with Alibaba to authenticate Australian food products that are bound for the Chinese market. And then last but not least, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is exploring blockchain technologies to try to bring and create a financial services system for the least privileged. Okay? So lots of opportunities for collaboration outside of what we're typically seeing. Oh, the slide's not moving? That's okay. It's okay. Just focus on what I'm saying, not the slides. So we also have seen growing momentum by the industry and a number of industry consortiums, right? Most of you have probably heard of the Linux Foundation's Hyperledger program, right, where a lot of people, a lot of companies are contributing. There's over 130 companies that are contributing to the Hyperledger project. The R3 consortium has over 80 banks as its member. And in fact, later on, stay awake because there's something really interesting they wrote 4 days ago that if you want to learn a little bit about Intel technology and its value in blockchain, it's a fascinating write-up that I'll reference one. I'll tell you exactly what you type in your search engine, and you'll find a really good article on some of our technologies to help with privacy and security, specifically applied to Corda. And then the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance is also recently officially announced, and it has over 100 members. So lots of interest from the industry. Now, we are going to have a panel here, that's why you all came, and I wanted to highlight some of the innovation from our partners, okay? Starting with General Electric, they recently announced a blockchain initiative with Ericsson around an industrial application platform. And what their plans are to deliver a service that supports an independently verifiable chain of custody for data pipelines and workflows. And this is going to be very important in regulated industries where data assurance is required. IBM has been very active in blockchain, right? And they'll tell us a lot about that. But one of the most interesting recent engagements is their partnership with Secure Key Technologies around the development and testing of a blockchain-based digital identity. And the intent here, and this is in Canada, by the way, and the intent here is to enable people to get more control, if that's ever possible, but we hope it is, of their digital identities and decide what to share and when to share it across banks, telcos, healthcare providers, and government agencies. Deloitte, who's an active partner and is an active partner with Intel, is also unveiling a trade finance proof of concept using blockchain to explore new models for credit and funding guarantees. And then last but not least, Accenture is working on a blockchain-focused hardware selection with Thales to store private keys, and key management and key security is an important aspect in blockchain, and they will rely on hardware security modules for the intent to shore up the security around blockchains. Okay, so that's an example of some of the collaborations from the partners in the panel today. We need touch, by the way, in our PCs here. Okay, let me talk about some of what I want to do is I want to spend some time touching on Intel's contribution to Hyperledger. And it's too bad you can't see the slides here, because what I wanted to show you was a picture of our platform that we developed called the Hyperledger Sawtooth. And in the blockchain space, we're doing something very different in that you want to come up and, sorry about that, commercial break. When you go to slideshow, does it show it?
Is this okay?
Here we go.
Is this better?
Forward. Forward. Yeah, I'll just click on that.
Perfect. Click there and it'll all be good.
No problem. Okay, we're almost there. There we go. Okay. So the reason I wanted to share this is because in the blockchain space, we decided to do something a little bit different, which is rather than start from the bottoms up, as we typically do as a CPU company, we wanted to understand what this workload looked like. And so we decided to build our own distributed ledger, which is a platform designed with customization and modularity in mind. And so that's what you see here. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this picture. What I did want to highlight is there are a number of different components here. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to optimize for three areas. Scalability, privacy, and security. And I'm going to touch on that in a second, and you're going to see a few of the technologies that you see here highlighted. And I wanted to start, first and foremost, with this concept of scalability in blockchain, and that starts with consensus algorithms. And not knowing, by the way, this was pure coincidence that this morning I was reading the paper and I read an article on this proof of elapsed time model for consensus. And what we've basically done is we've built a proof of a consensus algorithm that's single consensus with random leader election. It uses the hardware's trusted execution environment to deliver a very economical and greener algorithm. And so for those of you who follow blockchain, you know that a lot of the algorithms today are built on this concept of a proof of work, and they're computationally very expensive. Many people have to spend time in either ASICs, because what you're doing is you're churning a lot of hash functions. And so what we do is we use the concept of, again, this proof of elapsed time using the hardware to deliver something that is much more highly scalable from a consensus point of view at a lower energy footprint, okay? And so, by the way, you can look it up and learn more about our proof of elapsed time technology. The proof of elapsed time technology, along with the management of keys securely in blockchain, the attestation of the nodes themselves that do consensus, and privacy are all enabled by what we do at the hardware level. So we started with a distributed ledger called Sawtooth. We started optimizing some portions of it, especially the consensus algorithm. But then we realized that we could use that same exact hardware technology to protect keys, to remotely attest, and to deliver privacy. And that technology is software guard extensions. And what's important to note, and you can find a lot about software guard extensions, but you should be proud because the development of this technology is happening here in Israel. So the core team that's developing that, yes. Tremendous amount of value, and some of the lead architects and top engineering managers are actually sitting here in the audience, but I'm not going to point them out because we want them to go home eventually, otherwise you'll all flock to them. But there's been a tremendous amount of innovation from the distributed ledger to consensus algorithms, leveraging hardware innovation that we have in the platform, okay? Now, let me spend a little bit of time with some real examples of how we're innovating specifically in the blockchain space. And I mentioned earlier that we're focusing on 3 areas: privacy, security, and scalability. Blockchain success is going to require a foundation of trust between parties, and it's going to require scalable consensus, okay? And I'm just going to highlight, so I don't overextend my welcome here, some of the examples in privacy, security, and scalability. So starting with privacy, we're very excited about the work that we're doing in the healthcare space. And there is an entity in the US called Pokiduct. It's a healthcare consortium, and we are focusing on usages of the technologies that I talked about to protect the privacy of medical records. Okay, so that's one of the examples there. It's very important specifically for HIPAA compliance in the US. The second example is how we're solving for, let me go back, for security. And our work in security is primarily focusing on work in the BitPay, with BitPay, around securing Bitcoin wallets. Again, using the same types of technologies that I mentioned earlier. And then there are a number of examples where we're trying to solve for scalability. And the work that I mentioned with the proof of elapsed time is an example of consensus algorithms to enable scalability. Now, none of this, by the way, would be possible without significant cooperation with the industry. So I want to highlight something very exciting here. And it's the fact that we started our industry collaboration here with a hackathon in March. And the reason I love coming to Israel is because innovation happens at a rate that is just phenomenal. And a great example is we held our hackathon in March, right? And one of our winners, right, in that hackathon was Bancor. And are you guys aware of Bancor? A lot of you, right? 3 months later, a big event for them. Guy's here. Where's Guy? Right there, right? 3 months. 3 months for Bancor to receive significant investment because of the possibilities that they can unleash in the financial services industry and probably beyond. This is an example of how quickly this space is moving and probably the reason why you're all sitting here. So we're very proud of the work and congratulations on a great example of industry collaboration. So in summary, there's a great deal of opportunities in this space. We still have a lot of challenges, technological, from a regulatory point of view. We look forward to collaborating with the industry. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jacob, who's going to introduce a few more speakers and help us through the panel. Thank you.